Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the third part of our Ahlulbayt Live Fatimiyya special, where we're looking at the events that took place after the death of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family, with regard to Lady Fatima az-Zahra, salam alayha. And this is again a section of history, a piece of history over which there has been some confusion or misunderstanding or misrepresentation. So tonight, inshallah, we're going to be looking at the events that took place with regard to Fadak, which we have been looking at already, the piece of land that was gifted to her by the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family. And tonight we're going to be looking at her speech. My guest is Brother Sajjad Jihad, and inshallah we'll be analysing her speech throughout the show. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, sister.
Thank you for giving us your time again. Where we got up to last time was that Imam Ali alayhi salam said to Lady Fatima, peace be upon her, to go to the mosque to kind of announce what had been happening with regard to this situation. Now this is quite interesting because again, people have this perception of Lady Fatima, peace be upon her, that okay, she spoke out, but she was more or less quite hidden, quite concealed from the community. But and often people will argue as well, as we've had a few callers who will say that why didn't Imam Ali alayhi salam defend her as well? So this again seems to be a situation where he's, rather than him going out and saying, look at what's happened to my wife or what's happened to us, he's actually telling her to go out and announce to the people herself. I mean, what is the significance of this?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. With regards to Fatima herself, salamun alayha, coming out and speaking to the people, the biographers say that this was the only time that Fatima gave a speech in public, and that she did this at the instruction of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So that highlights that she's acting according to the orders of the Imam,
right, first
and foremost. So the duty here is to the Imam. Second of all, her husband is instructing her to do something. Thirdly, she's asking for her right. So on all three counts, she's doing the right thing. And on all three counts, it's an obligation. Now, with regards to the issue of Fadak, Fatima in her speech, as we shall see, refers to Fadak only in part. Part of it is also saying that be wary of straying from the correct path. Know that I am the daughter of the Prophet, and the Prophet has just passed away, and that already I can see your hatred for Ali ibn Abi Talib, your hatred for the Prophet is starting to come to the surface. The fact that my husband, Amir al-Mu'mineen, had killed some of your uncles or some of the kuffar, and that we are now in a position of leadership, you don't want that. And some of you are now bringing back the old hatred. And she's warning them that Fadak is a symptom of their disobedience. Fadak is a symptom of them going against the sunnah of the Prophet. It isn't Fadak per se by itself. It's more to do with the fact that Fadak symbolizes their willingness to go against the Prophet's commands. Going against the Prophet's commands is going against Allah's commands. And then doing that means that we're not following Islam properly. So the issue, and when we refer to Fatima az-Zahra and this period of debate and dispute with the first and second Khalifa, it's not on personal terms. She's here to say that I speak the truth, I am purified, I am the daughter of the Prophet, and he spent all his time educating us and purifying us, and that we act on advice from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Holy Prophet. We act in the best possible way of all Muslims. So when we do something or ask for something or do not do something, believe that this is the best way of doing it. If you stand up against us, then you're going against the Prophet. So you're on the wrong side of Islam. So here when she leaves and goes to speak to the people, it's to wake them up, to shake them up and say, look, the Prophet's only been dead a few days and already I'm starting to see changes in Islam. Amir al-Mu'mineen himself also requests that Fatima speaks because I think he understands that, or knows, or is foretold that this occasion is going to be recorded for all of history. So we could have, for example, the Imam making a speech, but it wouldn't have the same effect as Fatima az-Zahra, the only time she's ever spoken in public. Her coming out and giving a speech in this way and saying very clearly that I'm being oppressed, Amir al-Mu'mineen would not have had the same effect. He realizes this. And also because of the stature of Fatima amongst the Muslims, she's not running for political office. let's say let's suppose that Ali ibn Abi Talib is running for politics, but she's not. Let's say Ali ibn Abi Talib had killed some enemies of Islam before and people were upset. Fatima did not. Let's say Ali should not have inherited the position of power. Fatima did not inherit a position of power. She was essentially a housewife. She's the daughter of the Prophet. So there shouldn't have been enmity against Fatima herself. And so her coming out to speak is entirely relevant and to the point.
Okay, thank you. That's good. Again, so when she went out, was she? I mean, this is what we're going to be looking at tonight, inshallah, is the speech that she gave in front of Abu Bakr. But when she went out into the mosque, was it along the lines of this speech when she's giving?
Yes,
an
and we'll go through the first scene when Fatima leaves her house and how she manages to, in what way she enters the mosque and with whom, and the way that she gives the speech. It's a beautiful form of hijab that she practices. But we need to say that the recording of the speech of Fatima az-Zahra isn't purely in the books of the School of Ahlulbayt.
Right.
It's recorded by multiple authors in multiple books through multiple chains. And to dispute the content of the speech in some parts is acceptable for the ulama, but to say that the speech did not occur or is not authentic and no such thing exists is not acceptable at all.
Right.
So we can prove some of this if we look at some of the work that the ulama have done, the scholars have done. They've said that the speech of Fatima az-Zahra in its entirety, so not parts of, but in its entirety, has been found to have been narrated through 22 different chains. And I'll go through each of those narrators in a minute. And these 22 different chains have been found in 17 different works. So there are 17 books or works that have narrated the speech of Fatima az-Zahra, and there are 22 chains of how we managed to receive these, of this khutbah. And if you'll allow me, I'll just go through the sources. I think it's important as a historical document for anybody who's interested, and we should encourage viewers, whether they be youngsters or they be elders, they be students or not. I think we should encourage everyone to actually get reading and looking into the history of Islam. I think it's a travesty in the information age that we don't spend a lot of our time looking at and using all the resources available. We tend to learn a lot about celebrities and current affairs and what's going on in our lives on a day-to-day basis. But what occurred during the lifetime of the Prophet, when alhamdulillah now books are available, digitized, you can view it on a tablet, you can view it on your mobile. It's a shame that we, the people who follow the Ja'far as-Sadiq, are not turning to
I think
knowledge.
This is definitely, I think this is one of the great, I would say, weaknesses of the community of the followers of Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, that there is not enough reading and personal investigation going on and ascertation of the sources and of the arguments on an individual level. And really this is, in order for there to be a kind of revival, we could say, and to preserve the tradition, people have got to get reading.
That's right.
Really. Yeah.
So we really encourage, and we say, when we read out references and sources in the show, it's not for the purpose of making a point. It's really for us to encourage viewers to get reading. Look it up. Some of these books are translated, some are not, some are available online, some are in libraries. Alhamdulillah, we both have seen the universities here in the UK, they're well stocked with Islamic books, especially the reference type books. So inshallah, we're going to encourage viewers to look up these references for themselves. So the 17 books or works in which the khutbah of Fatima az-Zahra has been narrated in full. Number one, Dala'il al-Imama, which is by Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Tabari, Al-Ihtijaj by al-Tabrasi, Kashf al-Ghumma for Ali ibn Isa al-Arbali, Sharh Najj al-Balagha for Ibn Maytham al-Bahrani, Al-Shafi fi al-Imama, Sayyid Murtada's work, Sharh al-Akhbar fi Fada'il al-A'imma al-Athhar, Al-Qadi Nu'man, Al-Tara'if للسيد ابن طاووس, الدر النظيم, الكتاب المبين, أنوار اليقين, منال الطالب, شرح نهج البلاغة لابن أبي الحديد, التذكرة الحمدونية, نثر الدر, بلاغات النساء, which is a work on female works of adab in terms of literature, speeches, letters, any works authored by females. Very interesting. Anybody's interested.
Who's that by?
Ibn Tayfur.
Okay.
Who's not from the school of Ahlulbayt.
Okay.
Balaghat al-Nisa is the work, and he includes the speech of Fatima as an example of women's eloquence and literature, and he points to this and says that this is the pinnacle of what women have achieved in terms of oratory and skill in delivering an idea and thoughts. Al-Fadil في صفة الآداب الكامل أو في صفة الأدب الكامل نسخة العلامة القزويني. So there is a work that is stored in one of these libraries that includes the speech handwritten, dating back centuries. That is in the library of Alama Qazwini, so from 200 years ago. And 3 works that we have here that have included the speech, but not in its entirety. Ma'ani al-Akhbar, which is for Sheikh al-Saduq. Amali al-Tusi, which is the dictations of Sheikh al-Tusi, Sheikh al-Ta'ifa. And there is a copy in Mashhad, in the Astana Quds library, which is the copy that Allama Majlisi used himself. And it is a handwritten manuscript. And he says that what he has received, or what he's copied this from, is from a manuscript written by Sayyid Murtada. So Sayyid Murtada is roughly the year 400 Hijri, so going back 1,000 years. So his nuskha, his copy, is based on a handwritten copy from 1,000 years before, from the year 400 Hijri. So it is beyond doubt, we would say, that this is an authentic khutbah, and it's been recorded in so many sources, and as we'll look at now, so many different chains as well.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, so just again, sort of to repeat some of the notable ones: Dala'il al-Imama by Tabari.
Yes.
And then Balaghat al-Nisa by Ibn Tayfur. So those are from the other schools of thought. Okay.
The chains, as I mentioned, we have 22 different chains of narration. So we have the narrations from Zainab Salamullah alayha. So ultimately, we were able to go through the companions. I'm not going to list them, it's too numerous.
Okay.
But there are 7 different chains that reach Zainab Salamullah alayha.
Okay.
So Zainab narrates this khutbah, and in Dalal Imam there is 1, 2, 3 different chains, and then Ibn Abi al-Hadid has a chain as well, and Anwar al-Yaqeen and Balaghat al-Nisa and Dur al-Nadim, there are different chains as well. So these are 7 different chains of narrations. So some of the companions that narrate differ, that reach up until Zainab, and Zainab says, I was at the event, I heard from Fatima az-Zahra. So, and we do not dispute the status of Fatima, of Zainab Salamullah alayha. So we take her to be truthful. Some people may comment and say Zainab was 5 years old at the time. In what position is she to this eloquent khutbah? How is she able to memorize it? We can say, the ulama have responded to this in numerous ways. First and foremost, Imam Zain al-Abidin's comment to Zainab is, Amma inti alima ghair mu'allima. You have been taught without instruction.
Right.
To say that she has received knowledge beyond the normal means that we all acquire. So that's evidence from Imam Zain al-Abidin, number 1. Number 2, that she lived with Amir al-Mu'mineen and al-Hasan al-Hussein for many years. So that the words of Fatima az-Zahra, had she not memorized it from Fatima on that day, she would have known such an important speech. She would have known of it and learnt it and memorized it at a later time, possibly. And third of all, what is there to deny that this is a great event, and that Zainab Salamullah alayha would not have put all her attentions and efforts in learning such a thing? And especially in those days, Arabs were very keen on speeches and oratory, and they put a lot of emphasis in the words that people use. The whole Quran is essentially based on eloquence and oratory to convince the Arabs that this is something special. And so learning and memorizing was due for the day. It was something quite normal.
No, that's. I mean, I studied oral literature for my masters, and was looking at the societies where the spoken word is indeed extremely important, and people would have the talent for memorize. I mean, it was part of kind of the whole culture to memorize whole genealogies, whole histories, and people even would that would be their role in the community, to literally be the memory of the community.
Exactly right, and that's why when we refer to these narrations, we refer to them with, let's say, authority, or quite comfortably, without any doubt in our hearts, because we know the importance the Ahlulbayt placed on memorizing these ahadith and spreading this. And we know that the conditions were difficult. Hadith was banned for almost 150 years. So after the death of the Prophet, for almost 150 years, transmitting hadith was prohibited. So the Ahlulbayt put a lot of energy into ensuring people memorized their speeches, their advices. That's how we get Sahih al-Sajjadiyah, for example, because the Imam worked hard, tirelessly on his companions to ensure that he brought them up to a standard where they would be able to understand his words and to then narrate them properly to others, so that if they were asked what were the meanings of those words, Abu Hamza al-Thumali, for example, would be able to say, this is what this part of the dua means, for example. So these are the Imam's words transmitted by the companions, but they ensure that the companions were up to that standard. So when we refer to the speech or we refer to some of that hadith, we say that the Ahlulbayt use this as a method. It's a method that we would employ today. We do it through TV and radio and print and online. In those days, it was the spoken word and people going on to villages and towns and saying, I heard so-and-so from Ali ibn Abi Talib or from Muhammad ibn Abdullah or Fatima bint Muhammad. So we emphasize that these ahadith, the fact that they are numerous through different chains, the fact that they don't conflict, the ahadith of the Ahlulbayt adds to their authenticity, inshallah.
Okay, thank you very much. That's good to clarify, because sometimes when you find, again, the speech in different books, they don't always give the sources of the speech. So, again, someone going out and buying a translation of the speech that happened, is in a book, again, they might say, well, how do I know that this really took place? But as you've said, you've got the sources.
And it's, we have two narrations from two different chains from Imam Hussein. We have 1, 2, 3 from Imam Muhammad Baqir. We have one from Ibn Abbas. So Abdullah ibn Abbas narrates this, and this is in sources other than the books of Ahlulbayt.
Okay.
The narrations from Abdullah al-Mahf. So Abdullah, the son of al-Hasan al-Muthanna, who is the son of al-Hasan, the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So he's the grandson of Imam al-Hasan. He narrates this hadith as well that he heard from the Imams.
Okay.
We have two narrations from Aisha, the wife of the Prophet. And that include the contents of the speech.
Okay.
We have a riwayah from Abi Hashim Muhammad, a riwayah from Awana, a riwayah from Ibn Aisha. So not only the Imams, not only the companions, even further off we have chains and narrations showing that more than one person has come to hear of the hadith. It's not through one person only. So it adds to the authenticity of the hadith. We also have parts of the speech narrated in different chains. Amir al-Mu'mineen narrates part of it in three different works. Imam Zayn al-Abidin narrated it. Fatima, the daughter of Imam al-Hussein, narrates in 1, 2, 3, 4 different chains. Ibn Abbas narrates part of it in a different chain, as we mentioned. And Atiyya al-Awfi, the companion of Jabir, Atiyya has a chain as well that he narrates the hadith from. So we can see it's numerous and beyond doubt that such a speech took place and that Fatima az-Zahra tried to maximize, and with the occasion that she went in, the time she went in, she knew, and Amir al-Mu'mineen knew, that a lot of people were gathered so that it would have the desired effect, inshallah.
Thank you very much. So beginning to look at the speech, as it says that she felt grieved by Abu Bakr's actions, and so she was accompanied by a group of women to the mosque. So you were going to explain this whole process of how she went to the mosque. That's right,
Ahsantum. After Amir al-Mu'mineen instructed Fatima to go to the mosque and to speak, she left her house with a group of her female supporters, companions, family members, and the narrations say that she wore her full hijab, jilbab is what is mentioned in the narrations, and she moved with a group of her women. She walked as the Prophet used to walk. The Prophet had a distinct manner of walking. He would walk briskly, purposefully, going to accomplish something, making the best use of it. And Fatima walked that walk when she left. And part of her hijab dragged behind her. She wore long clothing, and because of the manner that she had walked, part of her hijab was dragging along the ground, the narrations say. And she entered the mosque, and to one side the first Khalifa and the second Khalifa and a group of companions, of their companions and supporters were gathered. And in the other parts of the mosque, there was the rest of the Muhajirin and Ansar gathered. So they were not with the first and second Khalifa, but they were gathered there also. And then a group of Nisa were on the outer door of the mosque. So either they were doing the ziyarah, for example, or they were waiting or about to enter. And Fatima entered in a state that everybody saw something was happening. That she entered with a group, she walked briskly, that she came right next to the grave of Rasulullah. She took a position right next to the grave of the Prophet, and that attracted everyone's attention to the fact that something is happening, something is to be said. And the narrations say that Fatima sat and let out a wail or a cry of mourning, and this immediately led everyone to begin crying, and tears like the day that the Prophet had died began to fall. And so the Muslims all began to weep, and Fatima wanted to speak, so she signaled to the people around her. They made a curtain in a way, or a sitar, to put a barrier between her and the rest of the people, so that they would come forward and gather, so that they could listen to her words. Those days there was no amplifiers, and there's no electrical equipment, and this is the voice of a woman, so it doesn't carry as far as so it needs people to come closer to be able to hear. So they make this like a curtain for her to shield her from the eyes of the men, and they all approach and gather closer to the grave of the Prophet. And Fatima begins by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as soon as she begins by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she takes a pause, and then the people begin to cry again. So they cry yet again, and then Fatima indicates that she has something important to say, that she wants people to be calm so that she can begin her speech. And at this point, the narrators say that what we would call pin drop silence. The whole mosque goes quiet when Fatima signals to them, and everybody's waiting to hear what Fatima's words are going to be. And her speech, the narrations say that her speech begins at the word for word narrations begin at this point, and we'll go into this inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. We've still got a couple of minutes till we go to break, so we can, I suppose we can start with perhaps a summary before we actually go into the speech, because it's got different sort of sections.
Exactly right. When scholars, I think there is over 120 works. I'm not sure of the exact number, but I think it's around 100 or 120 works. I'm referring to Arabic, of course, that are Sharh Khutbat az-Zahra, which are the commentary or analysis, or if you want to call it, tafsir of the speech of Fatima az-Zahra. And the number of volumes, even though we can say the speech is maybe 8 pages, 9 pages, to do a commentary of this speech, it fills up more than one volume of writing, because the eloquence is of a very high standard, yet she's brief and to the point. And when you have something like that, it takes a lot of time to unravel it, and it takes a lot of effort, like the Quran. Allah's words are eloquent but compact, never saying more than is needed, direct and to the point, and one word can mean or can replace the meaning or the need for 6 or 7 words, or that one sentence or one verse has 7 different meanings and can apply in different. SubhanAllah, the speech of Fatima az-Zahra is very, very similar, so that it needs technique far beyond my abilities, but alhamdulillah, some of the ulama have been able to do it, to look and unravel what is Fatima trying to prove here, what is she trying to say here, what is this portion of the speech, because obviously it flows in all together, but some of the ulama have managed to sit down and decipher what parts is she referring to here. And alhamdulillah, with some of the notes that we've managed to make, we've got about, let's say, 24, 25 different categories or parts or sections or chapters, whatever you want to refer to, in her speech. And you will see that as we go through, each one of them is different. So it begins with the praise of Allah, and then discusses prophethood and a message. She talks about secrets of worship. She talks about the state of the Arabs before the Prophet. So there is a theme, and Fatima az-Zahra is trying to address multiple layers. First of all, she's trying to remind people what they were like before Islam. the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in sending them this kind of prophet, the behavior of the prophet with them, how he saved them essentially from hellfire, what they should have learned from Tawheed, what they gained from Ibadah, and then she moves on slowly. So when she comes to Fadak, it's not a personal issue anymore, it's a matter of upholding Islamic values and laws.
Thank you very much, that's excellent. And we're about to go to break. Inshallah, we'll see you again in a few minutes. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to our Fatimiya special on Ahlulbayt Live, and we are about to embark on the perusal or examination of the speech of Lady Fatima az-Zahra, peace be upon her, in the Masjid al-Nabawi, peace be upon him and his family. So if you would like to begin, Brother Sajjad, on the first section that you were going to...
Inshallah, and I advise all the viewers to, if they want to follow along right now, if they can type into Google khutbah, so K-H-U-T-B-A, and then of Fatima, F-A-T-I-M-A, and then Zahra, Z-A-H-R-A. If they type that into Google, first thing that comes up is the full khutbah in English.
Right.
If they can click on it, they'll be able to follow through the khutbah as we go along. And I think it's a document that people should have in their homes, maybe teach their children. Alhamdulillah, I know that in the Arab-speaking world, especially in Iraq, I know that a lot of the ulama, a lot of the female speakers have memorized this speech.
Wow.
And they refer to it when they give lectures. Some of them refer to the poetry that Fatima uses in these speeches. And sometimes a part of it has become like a saying. Some of the words that she uses, like kuntu ala shafa hafratin min an-nar, you were on the precipice, you were on the edge, on the cliff edge, you were about to fall into hellfire. Those, the four words in Arabic that she uses has become almost like a saying. When we sometimes in common life or daily life, we say to people, "You're about." That's how eloquent it was, that the words that she uses. So, advise viewers, inshallah, if they can follow along, I think there's a lot to benefit from that.
Inshallah.
So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. She starts with, as I said, praising Allah, and then she was interrupted by people crying, and then she signals them to keep quiet, and then she starts again. And the first part is the praise of Allah, which is the sunnah of the prophets, is the sunnah of the Ahlulbayt. And we see that whenever the Ahlulbayt began a speech, they would praise Allah first of all. And even today, the modern day scholars and khataba, they start off with Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam. So to start off in the praise of Allah is the sunnah of the Ahlulbayt. So Fatima here is showing this sunnah to us. And it's also the fact that whenever you do anything, you keep Allah in your mind. The fact that she's here is for the sake of Allah. The fact that she's speaking is to please Allah.
Yeah.
She's not here for her own purposes. So remembering Allah at the beginning of any action, saying Bismillah before you eat something, or you give something, or you take something, before you leave your house, before you do any amal, whenever you want to take part in anything good, we recite Al-Fatiha, for example. So keeping Allah in the beginning of every action brings barakah, and is the sunnah of the Prophet, and Fatima adheres to that. So she says here, for example, she gives thanks to Allah. She says, bounties, Allah has bestowed bounties too vast to measure. Their limit was too distant to realize. He recommended to them to gain more by being grateful for their continuity. He ordained himself praiseworthy by giving generously to his creatures. She bears witness, Fatima says, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah who is one, without partner. A statement which sincere devotion is made to be its interpretation, hearts guarantee its continuation, and illuminated in the minds is a sensibility. Now, some of the viewers will struggle with understanding parts of the English. Those who are able to read the Arabic will find that that may be more useful. But here Fatima is trying to explain that belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be in the same way that we view humans or the idols of those days. So trying to say he's like this, he does so and so, he has some of this or X amount of that, is not possible. So believing in Allah means you can't describe him in words that we use to describe humans or things that are around us. And so she's saying believing in him isn't purely in the mind, it's an issue of the heart as well. Continuing to believe in him is a matter of faith. It isn't just a matter of logic and sitting down saying, well, there must be a God. It's also a matter of the heart itself being convinced and wanting you to believe in a God. So she's saying that's, in a way, in a coded way, that not everyone who declares the Shahada manages to keep that up in his heart.
Right.
Because she says here, hearts guarantee its continuation.
Yes.
So she testifies, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, right? And then she carries on and says that heart guarantees its continuation. So saying, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, saying that there is one God puts you under the umbrella of Islam. But what's in your heart actually, at the end of the day, will decide whether you are a Muslim or not.
Yeah.
So the actions that you do and what beliefs that you have underneath will dictate whether you're a true Muslim or not. So here is a coded message in a way. The people at the time understood what it was. Certainly the people that were sat there and who the message was intended for surely understood what it was. Then Fatima Salamullah alayha says a very, very key sentence here in this beginning section, this first section. She says, he who cannot be perceived with vision, neither be described with tongues, nor can imagination surround his states. That is beautiful. She describes Allah by saying that he cannot be described in a way, right? So you can't see him, you can't use words to describe him properly. Maybe in our limited abilities, yes, but actually that doesn't really describe. So saying Allah is generous, he gives, is words that we've come up with, but really it's not sufficient for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Saying that he's all-knowing, these are still limiting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, for her to explain Tawheed and explain Allah in this way is significant. Imagine this is essentially a housewife, right? Who comes out and she's 18 years old and she speaks in this eloquent manner and explains to people what true religion is. You can bet that people were just sat there astounded, saying, well, she is the daughter of the Prophet, look at what she's explaining here. And you can imagine there were people who were jealous and envious and upset that they could not stand and give a speech in this way. And we certainly don't have any of the companions being able to describe Allah in this way or being as eloquent as Fatima az-Zahra in this way.
Or to give a reply
to
this.
Exactly. She continues here, she says, he originated things but not from anything that existed before them, and created them without examples to follow. Now what does this mean? In the Arabic, sometimes the scholars say خَلَقَتِ الْأَشْيَاءَ لَا مِنْ شَيْءٍ, and they say that's a very important distinction from خَلَقَ الْأَشْيَاءَ مِنْ لَا شَيْءٍ.
Right.
Okay, there's a distinction between the two. خَلَقَ الْأَشْيَاءَ لَا مِنْ شَيْءٍ or أَبْدَعَ الْأَشْيَاءَ لَا مِنْ شَيْءٍ means, and the translation is, he originated things but not from anything that existed before them. It means that Allah brought something into creations. And if she said it the other way, خَلَقَ الْأَشْيَاءَ مِنْ لَا شَيْءٍ means that he created something from nothing, which is impossible.
Right, okay.
She said, خَلَقَ الْأَشْيَاءَ لَا مِنْ شَيْءٍ, not مِنْ لَا شَيْءٍ.
Right.
If she said مِنْ لَا شَيْءٍ, he created something from nothing, which is impossible. And that's what we usually would have said straight away. He created something from nothing, but actually that's impossible. It's not. It's something that we wouldn't be able to accept. She says, خَلَقَ الْأَشْيَاءَ مِنْ لَا شَيْءٍ وَأَبْدَعَ الْأَشْيَاءَ لَا مِنْ شَيْءٍ, which means that Allah created something, but not based on anything that was already there. It was original. It was unique. It's never been done before. It was not that there was building blocks for him to do so. And created them without examples to follow. What he did, nobody else is able to do. So today, when we look at cloning, genetic engineering, we are looking at what Allah has done. We have to base anything that we do on carbon-based organisms. We have to use DNA. We have to look at what's there. And then all we try to do is replicate in some parts, tweak here and there, but we can't originate.
And often those replicas as well, they have some kind of error in them. I mean, they often find, I think it was the sheep years ago, Dolly the sheep. They found that actually her immune system was defective. So
that Fatima has mentioned this 1400 years ago, saying that and created them without examples to follow is unbelievable. And she's already said to people, it's Allah's way of creation, nobody else is going to be able to do. So Allah did not create something from nothing. So even if we looked at Big Bang Theory and creation of the universe, when we follow it back, we have the point where everything was contracted and it needed a spark to get that Big Bang. Even that contraction, that beginning stage, scientists get stuck at some point saying, well, what was before? Because we keep pushing back, what was before that, what was before that, what was before that? And it needs that spark. To say that there was nothing and then suddenly there was something doesn't make any sense. But to say that Allah made something not based on anything around, to originally make something, that kind of gives us a scientific explanation. And Fatima has very eloquently put it for us. So if we wanted to look at this first part, which ends with the sentence, he then made the reward for his obedience and punishment for his disobedience, so as to protect his creatures from his wrath and amass them into his paradise. I think this first beginning is what I would describe as the praise of Allah. That last sentence is also of importance. She says that being rewarded and creating reward and punishment, creating heaven and hell is for our benefit. Having an incentive and having something to ward you off doing bad is for your benefit, because she says that Allah is trying to amass all the people into paradise. So Allah's incentives that He's offered us for heaven and hell is for our own benefit. And this is the worship of the merchants or the slaves as well, in trying to seek reward and stay away from the hellfire. So worshipping for reward and staying away from bad so that we stay away from the hellfire. So Fatima makes this quite clear. And remember, this is a few days after the death of the Prophet. And that ends section 1 in my categorization. And then the sentence that starts, I too bear witness that my father Muhammad is his slave and messenger, is the second section, where she starts to talk about the prophethood. And she starts to talk about the message. She says, whom he chose prior to sending him, named him before sending him. Okay, so now we are talking about the light of the Prophet. We are talking about before this earth was even created. We're talking about part of the things that are preordained and that Allah has willed. So when we have this discussion about free will and predetermination, we refer to Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq's words that al-amru bayna amrayn. It's between the two. Some things are predestined, but some things you have free will in. It's neither total compulsion nor is it total free will. And an example here is this about part where Fatima says that Allah chose the Prophet before sending him, before even creating him. He had already named him. What kind of person Muhammad was going to be was already determined. So that is a nod to the fact that creation,
pre-existence.
Ahsantu. And that might have been above the heads of so many people, but alhamdulillah today, at that time, alhamdulillah today we can read those and say, wow, Fatima az-Zahra's words really explain a lot of the ahadith that we have around this topic. She says, for example, that Allah has sent him, she refers to the Prophet, as perfection for his commands, a resolution to accomplish his rule and an implementation of the decrees of his mercy. So he found the nations to vary in their faiths. So when the Prophet was sent, he found people having different types of faith and varying in that faith as well, the strength of that faith. Obsessed by their fires, worshipping their idols, and denying Allah despite their knowledge of Him. Some people knew that there was one God, but they decided to have idols for, and some historians have pointed out, financial gain. Some of the people at the time didn't really believe in the idols, but having an idol that you kept in a house, getting people to come once a year to visit this house and giving sacrifice and spending money in Mecca was a good business to do. So some people use the belief in the idols to make money and live on.
It's like people today. We get in some countries where people are giving certain medicines.
Correct.
Fake medicines to people for money, or even fake taweez and things like that.
Exactly right. This sentence, this word, and denying Allah despite the knowledge of Him, also has an additional meaning. Fatima is saying that everywhere you look around you, so she's trying to explain the difference between knowledge and realization. Everywhere I look around, we see the signs of Allah, the heavens, we see the planets, we see water, we see sun, we see light, we see death, we see life, we see creatures, we see it all around us. So we have knowledge of Allah, but realizing, not all of us have. And she's saying that they denied Allah despite their knowledge of Him. So they knew Allah, they knew there was one God because they could see it all around them, but maybe they didn't realize, or they did not want to realize. Therefore Allah illuminated their darkness with my father Muhammad, uncovered obscurity from their hearts and cleared the clouds from their insides. He revealed guidance among the people, so He delivered them from being led astray, led them away from misguidance, guided them to the proper religion, and called them to the straight path. So that the Prophet, when he came, it was as if the sun is shining on everything underneath it. And there is no doubt in the Prophet. She's trying to say that what the Prophet did nobody can doubt. He's the true prophet.
It also reminds me of those ayahs in Holy Quran as well, where it talks about, you know, a light that, you know, that we set down, or the light and the book, and the Mufassirs say this light refers to, and this is again Mufassirs from all schools of thought, they say this light refers to the Holy Prophet.
Yes, some of the Mufassirs refer to it as al-Haqiqa al-Muhammadiyya, for example. Yeah. Yes, correct. And Fatima, but you know, you get this, Mufassirin spent volumes trying to explain that. And Fatima's done this in a few sentences, so when we look, we have to appreciate that the words of Fatima, while are condensed, are actually dense as well. Yeah. Dense not in the terms of not being plain, but dense in terms of depth.
Yeah, I mean, even just these few sentences, we've got this page here, but actually what she is saying, and this is even just the translation, I'm sure the Arabic is even more,
yeah, it is.
You know, it is. What she's saying here requires, as you say, one sentence requires a lot of thought, like, okay, you know, sort of...
What's she getting at?
Because, not even what she's getting at, but it's like, how do I... you know, these are large ideas, we can say.
Exactly right, yeah. But she tries her best to speak plainly as well. She says, Allah then chose to recall him back in mercy, love and preference. So dying for the mu'min, for the believer, is a blessing.
Yeah.
Dying means you go back to the true life, which is the hereafter. Yeah. Dying means you go back to the companionship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dying means you go back to the place where you're surrounded by love and mercy. Yeah. And for people, they struggled with that idea. Dying wasn't a good thing. Dying was sad. Dying before the Prophet, before Islam, meant you just didn't exist. Yeah, yeah. And the Prophet came along and said, no, these dead bones, so yes, who is going to bring back these bones? The people were asking the Prophet, who's going to bring back these dead bones after they're dead and withered? And the Prophet says, they will be, the one who brings them back is the one who created them in the first place. So the idea of death troubled people. And Fatima was saying, well, the mu'min, so in the case that she's referring to the Prophet, is recalled back in mercy, love and preference. So Muhammad is in comfort from the burden of this world. So living in this world is a burden. So possessions, wealth, children, jobs, responsibilities, day-to-day life is a burden on the mu'min. So me, when I'm standing here and talking to you, and I'm going to bring up the issue of Fadak, know that this is a burden on us in this life. Possessions and wealth and material life is a burden. We can't wait to get out of this world. So our aim isn't to keep a hold of our lands and our wealth and our titles and properties. Really our aim is to please Allah in this world as much as we can and get out of it and move on to the better life. So again, she's preempting what she wants to say later on, that Fadak is a symptom of something. It's not really her aim to get land and wealth. She's not here for that. And ends the third part, so may the praise of Allah be upon my father. That sentence, the end of that sentence ends this part 3, if you want to call it, of the khutbah. And then, so if we say number 1 was when she entered the mosque, number 2 is when it was praise of Allah, number 3 is the Prophet heard the message. We come up to number 4, and the riwayat say then she turned to the crowd. So she turned to the crowd of people assembled. So now she's speaking to them directly and wants to, in a way, pique their attention. And she says this to the Muhajirin and Ansar. So not speaking directly to the first Khalifa. She's speaking to the other crowd. And speaks in a positive tone here. So the narrators have put this for us because Fatima did this deliberately. She wasn't talking to the first Khalifa here, or the second Khalifa. She's talking to a group of the Muhajirin and Ansar that weren't assembled with the first Khalifa. Okay. Because what she says here, we'll see what she said. It says, surely you are Allah's slaves at His command, prohibition. You are the bearers of His religion and revelation. You are Allah's trusted ones with yourselves and His messenger to the nations. And His messengers to the nations. Amongst you, He does have righteous authority, a covenant He brought onto you. So she's saying to these people that you gave bay'ah to the Prophet. You gave a bay'ah to the Prophet, which is a bay'ah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you had an agreement with the Prophet that you'd spread the word of Allah, that you would act on behalf of the Prophet. And he made a covenant with you. So you gave a promise to, and then we will see what the promise that you made, to take care of what was left to you by the Prophet. So her address here, by not being to the first Khalifa and his group, is showing that she's identified the types of Muslims. There is two groups of Muslims here. There is ones who are the trusted ones in the nation, who have been entrusted, and she's appealing to them.
Yeah.
She maybe has already, if you want to put it metaphorically, washed her hands of the other group, which the first Khalifa is in. But with regards to this group of people, she's appealing to their sense of duty and loyalty to the Prophet. She's saying that there was an agreement, there was a bay'ah, and there were things left for you to take care of. So this number 4, we need to ensure that viewers are aware, is addressed to this group of specific group of people. And number 5 here, she's saying that the Prophet left behind 2 things for you, and Allah left behind 2 things for you to take care of, which are the Quran and Ahlulbayt, and an heir He left to guard you. That is the eloquent book of Allah, the truthful Quran, the brilliant light, the shining beam. Its insights are indisputable, its secrets are revealed, its indicators are manifest, and its followers blessed by it. The Quran leads its adherents to goodwill, and hearing it leads to salvation. With it are the bright divine authorities achieved, His manifest determination acquired, His prohibited decrees avoided, His manifest evidence recognized, His satisfying proofs made apparent, His permissions granted, and His laws written. So what is left to you is exactly what Hadith al-Taqleen is about. That I have left behind Kitab Allah wa Atriti Ahl Bayti. And this part 5 is referring to the Kitab Allah, that the book of Allah, which we, the Ahl Bayt, are able to explain, which we are able to tell you what it means and can tell you what the reasoning behind it is, and when this was revealed and who that is about. We are the people that hold this type of knowledge, and this is what we should refer to. Who can claim, so if we have the book of Allah amongst us, who can claim to know it better? Us or them? So Fatima again is appealing to their understanding of religion. And she demonstrates their knowledge, the Ahl-Bayt's knowledge, in this part 6, which starts at, so Allah made belief to be purification. This part is beautiful. If anybody wants to teach children about ahkam, if anybody struggles with the concepts of why do we pray, why do we go on Hajj, what is jihad, here Fatima beautifully explains it. And she, by doing this, she shows her knowledge, she shows the knowledge of the Ahl-Bayt and superiority in understanding Islam. She shows that they are the ones, she just talked about the Quran, they are the ones who understand the Quran properly. And that there's nobody to dispute with them on this. That alone should convince the Muslims that they should never seek a leader apart from the Ahl-Bayt. That they should never deny or dispute with the Ahl-Bayt. They should never fail to support the Ahl-Bayt. So she demonstrates this here, also for us to benefit from today as well. She says, so Allah made belief to be purification for you from polytheism. So being a believer makes you spiritually clean. And we know that. We have in our laws that people who are non-Muslim need to be purified. So people who become a Muslim are spiritually pure. So their food, their drink, touching them physically, and so on and so forth. So she says that there is a spiritual connection to being a believer or not. And that's the purpose of having belief, is to purify, to give you the first step. Once you believe, once you're pure, you're on the first step into become a better person. She says, He made prayer an exaltation from you from conceit. The fact that you have to do ruku', you have to do sujood, you have to do tasbih and tashahhud, you have to praise somebody other than yourself, right? So you can be this huge world leader, you can be this multi-millionaire, billionaire, but you have to praise somebody else. You're used to getting praise all the time. You're used to people lavishing attention on you. You have to do it to somebody else now. You have to bow down before somebody else. You have to sit there and you have to say that I am the slave, I am the servant, I testify, I give thanks. To do that is to make you aware of your position. So when you're face down on the ground, it reminds you that there is somebody higher than you. No matter what position that you reach, there is somebody above you. There is something beyond the power that you have, and that power is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here, the reason, the secret, and I've labeled this category as secrets of worship, the secret of this type of worship is to make sure that you don't get beyond yourself. And Fatima then continues with explaining worships. Okay,
thank you, and we'll continue after the break. You're watching Ahlulbayt Live Fatimiyya special. We're about to go to another break. Inshallah, we'll see you again after a few minutes. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to Ahlulbayt Live Fatimiyya special, where we are looking at the speech of Lady Fatima, peace be upon her. when she was standing in the Mosque of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him and his family, right beside his grave, and she is speaking from behind a curtain, and the people are drawn close to hear her voice, to hear what she has to say. And we would just pass through the section where she is again clarifying the belief, the aqidah of Islam, and then she moves on to the pillars or the practices of Islam as well, to again clarify what they are for. So she's stating the foundations of Islam here.
Something that's right. So the first part was, like you said, aqaid, usul al-din, and now she's coming into furu' al-din.
Right.
Explain them. So you can see that for somebody to leave their house hastily, walk into a masjid, group of people, and then come out with this beautiful speech, well constructed in this way, themed in such a brilliant way, making sure to tackle everything that anybody would need in order to realize what is Islam. In a short speech, not a long speech. It can only point to divine inspiration and knowledge. It's not something that anybody of us would be able to do. When I speak, I have to spend days preparing. I come on a show like this, I got to spend days preparing to walk into a mosque and to come up with a speech like this from nowhere. In a way, right? She didn't have anything to work
because also
from.
it's very, every line again is
it's beautiful.
There's no wasted line.
No, and if I had the space in my house, so I would frame each one of these pages and just to look at them every day and just to keep me understanding what Islam is about, because these words are beautiful. So the first part was about prayer. She then says alms. So zakah is a purification for the soul and a growth and a cause of growth in your substance. So in your wealth. So giving gets you back. Both of these are based on the Quran. Why? Because the zakah is a way of, and the Quran mentions that when you give zakah, it's a way of purifying the rest of the money that you have. So you give a part of it, means that the rest is being blessed. The Quran mentions that. And the Quran says, لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ. You won't reach the state of goodness, you won't reach that high stage until you give from that which you love. And what else does the Quran say? Zinatul hayat al-mal wal-binun. That the ornaments of life, or that is what it is. That which is loved in this life is money, is wealth, and family and children. So giving from that which you love, which is wealth, makes you reach a higher stage, and that's exactly what Fatima is pointing out to here. And giving, Allah says, every time you give, He makes it 10 times more. So every time you give, He multiplies it by 10. And that's exactly what Fatima is saying here, that zakah has been made for you to benefit from. Don't look at it as a tax. You should be grateful that you give zakah. Every time you give zakah, you're going to get more money back, number one. Number two, the rest of your money is protected and blessed, and it starts to multiply by itself. Alhamdulillah, we know stories of people who are quite wealthy. I know a few. They say, wallah, the only reason we have any money is because we give khums and zakah, and we take care of the orphans and we take care of the poor Muslims. Otherwise, our money should have gone in the financial crisis of 2007 or 97 or stock market crash of whatever, 92, 93. We don't know how we haven't been wiped out. It's purely because we give these huquq. So a reference to that here. She says fasting is an implantation of devotion. So training yourself to fast is a sign that you're devoted. And we see that people that, for example, in the military, they have to do these practices every day at 5 a.m. They come out a routine, a ritual, a drill that you do. Why? Because you want to practice and devote yourself to the military, to your unit, to service. You go to the gym, for example, or if you're a professional sports person, you have a routine that you stick to because you want to be devoted to your cause. That's exactly what fasting does. It devotes you to your Lord.
Yeah, I mean, I find as well, if you fast and you haven't fasted, say, for a while, say you fast a day, you realize actually how how the soul has become untrained during that period. So when you're starting to fast again, or you fast for a one-off day after, say, a month or 2 months. I know there are people out there very pious; they fast twice a week or more.
Alhamdulillah. And it's now recommended.
Yes.
If anybody's been looking at the fast diet.
Yeah, everyone's doing this twice a week fasting now.
And one of them in his book, I'm obviously not going to go into detail, but he says that he mentions that the Prophet used to fast on Mondays and Thursdays, and those are 2 days he recommends on fasting as well. This is a currently bestseller book on fasting. Anyway.
So, alhamdulillah, but as you say, you realise how far from devotion you've become when you actually
reconnect. Exactly right. She says here, pilgrimage is a construction of religion. You go to Hajj, you see everything. You see Salah, you see Muslims, you see order. You have to do. You have to work together with other people. You have to have a leader. You have to have followers. You see different schools. You see different nations. You see different languages. You've got to move from one place to the other. You've got to have food. You've got to make the sacrifice, for example. You need to stay in one place at a particular hour. You get to see Islam in general. You get to see the way Muslims should behave with each other. So it's like a miniaturized Islamic state for those 10 days. What it should be like. So again, she points that out here. Justice is a harmony for the heart. Or harmony of the hearts. By having justice in an Islamic state, nobody can say, oh, this can't be a true religion because things are unjust. So Fatima explains that here. Obeying us, the Ahlulbayt, is a management of the nation. Our leadership, the Ahlulbayt, is safeguard from disunity. Jihad is a strengthening of Islam. Patience is a helping cause for deserving reward. Ordering goodness, so Amr Ma'ruf, is for the public benefit, public welfare. It's going to benefit you. If you tell each other to do good, you're going to benefit each other. Kindness to the parents, a safeguard from wrath, because Allah says, be good to your parents. So being good to them means that your children will be good to you, their children will be good to them, inshallah, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, you benefit from that. And she manages to complete this list, which I've categorized as the secrets of worship, and it ends with the words, for surely those who truly fear among his servants who have knowledge. And I think that section is one of the most beneficial of any spoken word that you can find, of any speech ever given. If we, especially as Muslims, especially if we're trying to teach, or for us, we're looking to understand some parts of Islam. I think this is excellent. This breaks down everything that you want to know about Islamic practices. Number 7, I've characterized as being. I've just labeled this as I am Fatima because of that. It's only one sentence. It's hugely significant. She says, "O people, be informed that I am Fatima, and my father is Muhammad. I say that repeatedly and initiate it continually. I say not what I say mistakenly, nor do I do what I do aimlessly." Very important. She's saying, first of all, know that I've given you this background to who the Prophet was and prophethood, and I've explained to you all of religion. Know that I am Fatima, that part of Muhammad, that piece of the Prophet. This is me. And I'm going to keep saying that I am Fatima, the daughter of Muhammad. So you don't forget, don't treat me like anybody else. I'm not like any other women out there. I'm not like any of the other relatives of the Prophet. I am Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet. Through me, his line will continue. Okay.
Another point as well is that where she says, I say not what I say mistakenly, nor do I do what I do aimlessly. This again, because we there are those, again, historical accounts out there of this event where her arrival to ask for her right, for Fadak, is seen as a mistake, or is seen as not having any particular aim behind it, except that she just wanted it. Or she felt like she wanted a piece of that. So, and that, oh dear, sorry, I made a mistake, do apologise, and then, don't do it again, kind of attitude from the other side. But this again, she's saying, well, I don't speak out of error.
No,
I don't do things out of mistakes, and I don't do things aimlessly. There's a purpose behind what I do.
Exactly.
The same as my father, he didn't do anything, for no particular reason or make any error. So.
Exactly right. I think that sentence is extremely important. That she says it in that manner. Know that I am Fatima, so know who I am, know my stature, know that whatever I say has a reason behind it, and I'm not doing it out of selfish interests. There is a purpose behind what I'm saying. And the next part, which follows this sentence, is how the Prophet changed these people, what they were like, because she's addressing people, the Muhajirin and Ansar. Muhajirin left from Mecca with the Prophet and went to Medina, so they did the Hijrah, and before them the group that went to Abyssinia. And the Ansar were the people that welcomed the Prophet into Medina. So these were people who previously were non-Muslims. So she's saying now, she's explaining the effect of the Prophet on them. Now has come unto you an apostle from amongst yourselves. Okay, so he's one of you in terms of he lived amongst you, he walks amongst you, he's not a foreigner.
Yeah.
You know he's from the best family and the best lineage. You know that he used to work as hard as any of you used to do. He was here. So don't now disregard him and say, well, he's a foreigner, somebody else forced him on us. No, he was amongst your best. He was somebody that you wanted him to be your leader. So know that he's one of you. It grieves him that you should perish. After all his hard work, he would be upset that anything would happen. And this is obviously also a quote from the Quran as well.
Yeah.
Anxious is he over you. The Prophet, is anxious for you to be better. He cares for you. He put all his effort into you. You're what is left of his legacy, his hard work. He put everything into you. So don't disregard the importance of that. Be aware that you're what the Prophet has left behind as well. You're the legacy of his hard work. To the believers he is most kind, most merciful, and that's what the Quran says as well. Thus if you identify and recognize him, you shall realize that he is my father and not the father of any of your women. Okay, so his wives and everybody else can't say that the Prophet was my father.
Yeah.
Okay, so he raised me, he taught me, he educated, he brought me up. There's no other woman out there who has the same status. So let nobody claim to be closer to the Prophet and to have learnt more from the Prophet than me. So all women who might be related to the opposing side, know that I was closer to the Prophet. You're not in a position to say the Prophet wanted this or the Prophet. I can say what the Prophet wanted. I was the one who was raised by him. I'm made from the Prophet. The brother of my cousin rather than any of your men. And now she starts talking about Amir al-Mu'mineen Salaam Ali. She says, what an excellent identity he was. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and his descendants. Thus he propagated the message by coming out openly with the warning, and while inclined away from the path of the polytheists, whom he struck their strength and seized their throats, while he invited to the way of his Lord with wisdom and beautiful preaching. He destroyed idols and defeated heroes until their group fled and turned their backs. So the Prophet worked hard. Prophet and Amir al-Mu'mineen worked hard to send those enemies away. They gave their energy, they gave their time. You would not be in a position of leadership today, now that you have the affair in your hands, you govern Arabia, and you're going to conquer some lands and countries and defeat civilizations. Know that it was through the hard work of the Prophet, through his preaching, through his focusing on developing you, and also through Amir al-Mu'mineen's, and she refers to it, striking down heroes. Defeating people in battle who you all fled, and Amir al-Mu'mineen would fight. So night revealed its dawn, righteousness uncovered its genuineness. The voice of religious authority spoke out loud. The evil discords were silenced. The crown of hypocrisy was diminished. So you spoke the statement of devotion amongst a band of starved ones. You were devoted to the Prophet as the person who's starved when someone's offered him food. You jump at the opportunity.
Yeah.
Because you were in such a terrible position. When the Prophet came along and did this service for you, you jumped at it. You really gave your allegiance because you had nowhere else to turn. And you were on the edge of a hole of fire. You were on the precipice, on the cliff. You were about to fall into the fire, and you were saved by my father, the Prophet. You were the drink of the thirsty one. It's over so quickly. You just want to drink. You're in such a rush. You're in such a need. You're so desperate. She's using, we would say, Arab language of the time.
Okay.
Something that everybody would be able to understand. Desert, lack of water, no rivers, no lakes. So the reference to water here is something that people of those time would understand clearly. She says, you used to drink from the water gathered on roads, and you used to eat jerked meat. The type of meat you had was animals that were killed through accident, that died by disease. That today is haram for us. We wouldn't eat that, but that's the kind of food you used to have. Anything just to survive on. Water that was gathered on the side of roads. She doesn't just mean in terms of physically. She's saying that your status was that you had leftovers. whatever filth you managed to find, you would survive on, not just physically but spiritually. So your position was like that who was living his life amongst rubbish and garbage and trash, as they would say. So my father came along when you were in that situation. That was the kind of life you lived. You were despised, outcasts, always in fear of abduction from those around you. Your wealth wasn't safe, your children wasn't safe, your property wasn't safe, laws weren't respected, your villages weren't respected. At any time wars broke out, invasions, attacks. This is what the Arabs used to do for a living in that time. If you asked, if you went round, you did a survey, you'd find 50-60% of men would say, well, I'm a highway robber. That was their occupation. They weren't scientists or teachers or authors or doctors or whatever. They were highway robbers. She's saying, this is the position you are in. Don't forget, now that you wear clean clothes and now that you hold authority, now that you have an army to command, now that you've got some money, don't forget where you came from. Don't forget my father changed this. And this is the ninth, now starts the ninth category I've made here with saying that Ali and the Prophet, what they did for you, how they changed the situation. Yet Allah rescued you through my father Muhammad after much ado and after he was confronted by mighty men, the Arab beasts and the demons of the people of the book. Whenever they ignited the fire of war, Allah extinguished it. And whenever the thorn of the devil appeared, or a mouth of the polytheist opened wide in defiance, he would strike its discords with his brother. So whenever there was trouble, he used his brother, my husband. Whenever there was an issue, there were problems, and Islam was challenged, he used Ali ibn Abi Talib to defend religion. So not first, second Khalifa, not Sahabi Fulan, not cousin of the Prophet Fulan, Ali ibn Abi Talib, who comes not back until he treads its wing with the sole of his feet. He always defeated the enemies. He never came back until he was victorious. Karrar in the Arabic. And extinguishes its flames with his sword. Ali is diligent in Allah's affair, near to the Messenger of Allah, a master among Allah's worshippers, setting to work briskly, sincere in his advice, earnest in exerting himself. While you were calm and feeling safe in your comfortable lives, waiting for us to meet disasters, awaiting the spread of news, you fell back during every battle and took to your heels at times of fighting. Fatima is saying, right, I'm going to speak openly here. Every time my husband and my father went to battle, you guys held back. Your families, your men sat back and waited for the news. You were afraid of the outcome. Yet my father and my husband had to go out and deliver this outcome. Where were you then? Now you talk about what is best for the Muslims and what the Muslims... Hold on a minute. Where were you when we were defending, when we were making Islam what it is today? When we fought for your wealth and positions and respect and your lives? My husband and my father did all this. So that categorizes part 9. Part 10, she says, after all this effort, now this is hatred and jealousy, hatred for the Prophet and jealousy of the Ahlulbayt. After all this, let's see how they showed their thanks and how they remained loyal. Yet when Allah chose his Prophet from the dwell of his prophets and the abode of his sincere servants, the thorns of hypocrisy appeared on you. So immediately, as soon as the Prophet has died, we start to see hypocrisy. You claim to be Muslim, but you don't behave like it. You claim to be a follower of Muhammad, but you don't behave like it. The garment of faith became worn out. So the cloak that you put on that said, I'm a Muslim and a mu'min and a believer, now it's being discarded. You're about to throw it away. So after all this effort, you're going to throw away Islam. The misguided ignorance spoke out. Very, very critical. Obviously veiled and in a form of coded language. She's saying the people who now speak out and are in charge are the ignorant and misguided amongst you. And this is very direct, very blunt. Yet also in a way that the Ahlulbayt's methods, whilst being direct and explaining exactly what it is not offensive. And I think this is also a message that we need to have today.
But it doesn't target anyone by name.
Clearly, it's very clear who they're referring to. But it's not offensive. And I think this is a behavior that we have to have today in today's world. Whether we deal with other Muslims or we deal with non-Muslims, even those that oppress us, even when we refer to historical terms, narrations, figures, whatever, we need to learn the method of Ahlulbayt, which is to be clear, to be frank, but not to be offensive, and to use methods that the household, the holy household, they would not allow horrible words to be uttered on their tongues and use that.
There's even actually narration that says, you know, the one who uses horrible words will not have the scent of paradise. And I think this isn't taken seriously by many people.
Yeah. So we refer them to the khutbah of Fatima az-Zahra. Frank, direct, she's not afraid of anybody. She's saying it as it is. And she's being very honest. And as we shall see, she becomes also in a part of it almost confrontational. She starts to point a finger and say, so-and-so. Where is it in the Quran that you inherit your father? I do. She becomes very, very direct, but never offensive. And I think that's a behavior that we should learn from Fatima az-Zahra. So she continues, the sluggish ignorant came to the front and brayed. Braying is obviously the sound of a donkey. She says, the sluggish ignorant came to the front. So the people that are leaders now, they were sluggish beforehand, and they're ignorant. He then aroused you and found you quick to answer him, the devil, and invited you to wrath. Therefore you branded other than your camels and proceeded to other than your drinking places. You now started to take things which don't belong to you. Khilafah, leadership, and so on and so forth. You started now, forgetting your position, forgetting who is what and what you are. Then while the era of the Prophet was still near, so this is only a few days after the death of the Prophet, the gash, so the injury and the upset, the emotion of being upset at the death of the Prophet is still fresh. The scar had not yet healed and the messenger was not yet buried. She's referring to Saqifa. So while the Prophet, it was the instant that he died, that moment, those hours that the Prophet died, while that was occurring, a quick undertaking, as you claimed, aimed at preventing discord. Surely you have fallen into discord already. And indeed hell surrounds the unbelievers. How preposterous, what an idea. Fatima is saying, so while the Prophet was lying, we were ready to bury the Prophet. We were suffering the loss of this great man, the greatest human being of all time. My father, his cousin, our Prophet. You made a quick undertaking, you made a deal, trying to prevent discord, but by doing that, this is what you actually did anyway.
We've just got a couple of minutes, so perhaps we can get up to this very important part where, and then inshallah tomorrow we can.
Inshallah, yes.
The next program.
This section 10, she continues saying to them, do you detest the truth? Do you desire a religion other than Islam? You concealed sips on froth and proceeded towards his kin and children in swamps and froth. You began to plot against us. She's quite honest in what is happening. But we are patient, even though we are being, but we are patient with you as if we are being notched with knives and stung by spearheads in our abdomens. A reference to what will happen to Imam al-Hussein, to Imam al-Hassan, to herself, to Amir al-Mu'mineen. She's saying, we are patient with you, even though you are going to hit us with knives and swords. Even though you're going to attack us, we're going to be patient with you, because this is what Allah says. So anybody who says, why didn't Ali ibn Abi Talib defend Fatima, and why did Imam Hassan, so on and so forth, we say, well, hold on, Fatima has already said that these are Allah's commands, that they're going to be patient. And then she reaches, and this is the 11th part, which we'll continue next episode. She reaches at this part and she says, yet now you claim that there is no inheritance for us. What? Why not? O Muslims, will my inheritance be usurped? She's saying, well, it's not just one person's fault. All of you are responsible. O son of Abu Quhafa, she was referring to the first Khalifa. Where is it in the book of Allah that you inherit your father and I do not inherit mine?
We have to finish there, and that's a good line to finish on, and inshallah we will continue in the next program. Thank you very much, Brother Sajjad Jihad, for a fascinating insight into the speech of Lady Fatima, peace be upon her. And inshallah we will see you again in the next program to continue the discussion of her speech. Assalamu alaikum.